Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Flight of ducks unknown, our voice begins to rise, breaking through the noise with fire in its eyes. The spirit of adventure burning ever bright. Hold on tight, travelers, it's gonna be alright. Another week burning, halfway to the end. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, let the tears descend. Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, night is here. Shatter the silence, conquer all your fear. Bonus Overdrive, the angels gonna scream. With Diego at the wheel, living out a dream.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, prepare to be captivated by the intriguing, nightmarish, bovine tale terror of Moo. Our guest brings us a new and original story that will certainly entertain and paint a new picture of when unsuspecting monsters that hunger for something more than pasture grass. Vine, Alabama will never be the same. All this plus more. Please welcome our good friend, author, Dustin Grammer. Dustin, my friend, welcome back to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back again.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And you're the record-breaking guest on the shows because you've been on both versions of the shows multiple times, and for good reason, because you're busy putting out these awesome books, man. You don't stop. You're a writing machine.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I try. If I don't sit there and work on them, man, they just drive me crazy. So I have to find time to work. But I probably don't work on them as much as you think I do. But I try. I try to get some stuff done. Not as much as you and all these shows that you put out like twice a week.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it's a little bit different. The process might be kind of the same, but every time we text at least, what 2-3 times a week every once in a while. Sometimes on weekends, what are you doing? And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, I'm writing something. I'm getting ready to sit down and type. I'm like, man. So, which is kind of interesting. The last time I spoke to you, the other side of the graveyard was hot off the press. It just got released, and not too long after that, I think it might have been the very next day, you already started working on another book.
I did, yeah. And then like now I'm not even working on that same book because as I've talked to you before, that the listeners wouldn't know, Moo was unplanned. So I think we went to the Fayette Memorial Library to an author event in November. And between like November and December, I'd started working on a different book. And I'm about on the sixth chapter of that. But then Moo came along because on the way to that library, my daughter, the whole spot where the idea even came from, my daughter's whole life she's been scared of cows because she's so tiny and there's cows all around here, and she would always say I don't like them because I'm so small and I think they're going to eat me. So like the whole way to the library we were just kind of like laughing and making up this story along the way. And then I kind of hit a little lull on writing the other project and just sat down one day and thought, what if I just, I'm going to need a smaller book to travel with. And, the other side of the graveyard ended up being a lot bigger than I anticipated. It's going to be hard to move around with that many copies of that. So I was like, what if I wrote this book about these killer cows and just kept it really short and to the point, which it ended up growing a little bit past where I aimed.
It reminds me of Dirt Road Tales. Let me ask why. Let me tell you why. Because you were also, as soon as you released your first book, you started working on what I thought at the time was going to be another compilation of horror stories into another book. One of those stories took a life of its own. It was the structure. It was its own release.
Hmm.
So with the idea of Moo, and we're talking about the idea of the structure, Moo, an independent book in itself. The structure started what would have been in a compilation. Did you tackle both kind of the same way? Because it took its own life.
Yeah, I kind of linked the two together in a way. Yeah, the structure was initially supposed to be part of the other side of the graveyard. And once I started working on that, and we, I talked about that on the other episode where the inspiration for that came from. I just realized to really make the story worthwhile, it had to be more than like 40 pages because it was going to have just like the quick ending, but I didn't. I really was having fun writing that one. I liked the idea behind it, so I wanted to let that one live and breathe a little more. So, and I would say Moo because they're similar in size with pages and everything. That is kind of the same as another small town Alabama story with country people and all that. It's just a totally different story itself. But there's a lot of similarities. I wrote them both in about the same time of the year. So yeah, and honestly, right now I think that they've been my two most popular books out of the four. So I kind of may try to go that direction a little more often going forward.
Well, we can actually add to that. And that was funny you mentioned that. I think it's because of the concept of the book. Because it's not just a typical horror book. It's very different. It's very original. And as long as I've been alive, even keeping up with horror books or even the movies, unless something escaped me, I think this is the first time where I've seen, or rather read, something about cows going out there and tearing the town up.
Yeah, and they're the thing about it, like I was talking to my brother about it, and one thing I think he kind of liked was there's nothing incredibly extraordinary about the cows. Like they are just cows, other than their extreme need for survival. It caused at first in the beginning it caused one of them to become slightly more intelligent, like her brain connections adapted to survive into she gained a little bit more logic. So other than that, they're not zombies, they're not lab experiments, they're not like the full moon doesn't come out and they turn into cows. They're actually it's just like a regular herd of cows that was starving and through desperation did what they had to do.
They sure did, man, because as I'm reading this book, and I'm a big fan of your work, and especially on the ones where are compilations of short stories, there's always one or two stories that stick out, and then kind of like Other Side of the Graveyard, where that very first story, it was just like right there, like bam, right?
Yeah.
This one had a similar feel, although there was a build up to it because of the ways, and I don't want to give too much away because I don't like spoilers. I want everybody to go ahead and get their own copy of Moo, enjoy it just like I did. But the way you introduce some of the folks' demise is like sudden or very. You surprised me on some of these things, man.
Oh well, good. Because and that was a challenge. I'm glad you said that because you made me think of this. The challenge with Moo versus some of my other stories is the lack of, I guess, a thrill or suspense. Because like in the structure, there's this big question mark through at least half of the book. Through a lot of my short stories, there's a big question mark. There's a suspense build. You don't, at least I hope, and I've been told this, so I guess it's true. I try to mislead a little bit, and you don't really know, or I would hope you don't really figure out where the story's going at first, and then the plot twist comes in, at least on a lot of them. But Moo, with it being direct from the very first page, basically, or at least the first chapter, had to be a little more creative because there's no surprise exactly with the cows other than like these guys are on the roll, they're doing these things that they're doing, and I guess the big question is what happens at the end, And the other thing was I liked was maybe people would have varying opinions over because I wouldn't really say, who's the real antagonist? Is it the cows or is it the people of Vine? And, I could see, or at least I would hope you could get people on both sides of the fence or opposite sides of the fence where some people were rooting for the cows, or maybe some were for the townspeople, that kind of thing.
It was a kind of like a roller coaster of emotions. And as far just like you mentioned, picking sides, like I really feel bad for the cows, but at the same time, not so much. But some of these cows have their very own personalities as well. So you not only they're not just like we're not talking about mindless zombies. We're talking about cows, but the evolution. It's a little, I want to say interesting. It's a little disturbing on how their evolution throughout the book happens.
Yeah, and honestly, it's to me, if you were to really sit down and reflect, to me, it is actually scary. It is a horror because I look at these massive cows out here around the house and they have escaped before and like been in my front yard or walking, down the sides of the road or whatever. They get out sometimes, especially at night, and you can't see them well. Like it's something of that size. If it actually had targeted you, as a meal, that would be pretty scary, and I think there are some statistics there with the, I think at least in the US that there's more people who are killed by cows than sharks every year.
There are, and I'm glad you brought that up because I heard you mention this before, not only on another show, but you also I think we talked about it on the side when we text each other. And I'm not gonna completely say these statistics are 100% accurate, but I feel pretty comfortable because it seems to be pretty accurate. So we're talking about the United States. Uh, the average deaths per year of humans caused by a shark is 20 to 22 human deaths.
Hmm.
So that's more than I expected. I would expect like farm accident, little things like that. Now, we talk about like sharks, right? Sharks kill about one person per year in the U.S. I found around 5 worldwide.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll hear these stories a lot, especially during the summer months about sharks, but you don't really hear too much about cows. Now, I looked up even more about what kind of these deaths, what do they pertain to? What's going on? Well, one of them is blunt force trauma.
Hmm.
It's unfortunately a single kick to the head or a headbutt from a 1,500-pound animal, fatal injuries to your chest, your head. Eventually, I think you'll succumb to the injury, depending on how hard it kicks you in the head. Another one, which I thought about too, trampling.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's how I figured most of it happened. Well, because those people get killed by buffalo. They tell them, and moose. They tell you to stay away from those things in the national parks.
They're quick too. The
Yeah,
buffalo.
they're faster than they look like they would be when they really get a burst.
And then the final one, which I think will be even more terrifying because it's slow and agonizing. If I were to choose one of these deaths, which I most certainly do not, because the cows where I'm at, they're close to my house, but they don't make it to my yard. Crushing
Crushing. Yeah, that would
with,
be slow.
in enclosed spaces, in chutes or barns, and it can may accidentally pin you up against a wall or a gate.
Hmm.
And if it don't want to move, it ain't going to move.
Yeah, and it doesn't know any better. Like it doesn't know that you can't breathe and you're gonna die. Yeah. Yeah, my mother-in-law came by here, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, and there was a cow just standing up on the hill looking down at her when she got out of the car, and she had read like 4 or 5 chapters of Moo at that point. She said, Dustin, that is the first time in my entire life that I've ever been nervous that a cow was looking at me.
Well, that is a great feedback for something. Let me tell you why. When you remember watching horror movies as a young person, even as an adult, if the movie's done very well, I'm not saying it has to be a Casablanca of horror movies or anything like that. But if it does real well, hearing the wind outside or a tree branch crack on the ground, the leaves glowing, I mean, not glowing, the leaves flowing around, and then you hear a wind, you start getting scared. It's like, that could be something back there.
Yeah.
So in essence, you did your part. And I think once people read this book, they're probably going to think twice before going out there and messing with a cow. Because, I don't know if this still happens today. People always laugh about this stuff. Is cow tipping still a thing?
I, I don't know. I haven't heard of that in a long time, but it could be.
I think that's a big thing, like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Like I used to hear about that in the 80s as well. But that's kind of a foolish thing to do. What if it tips on you, falls on your
Yeah.
side?
Well, then that could be some of that like that suffocation death that they account for. Uh, yeah, I mean, I even got a little nervous. I think you've seen a couple of my reels, and then one I included the cows, but I had to turn my back on them to make the video. And there's one I took several videos, and there's one where they kind of move really quick. One of them kind of like scuff the ground, like move really quick, and there for a minute, man, I got a little nervous because like, dude, like what if these guys get kind of wound up like in the book, and it wouldn't take much. And my dad said the same thing that they almost knocked him over when he was trying to go out there and feed them, and he had like the bag of feed. They got really excited and were pushing around, so those sort of things happen. Also told me around here, because I was telling him, because he's read it, that you would think like a herd of big animals like that escaping, that they wouldn't be hard to, if they were causing all this trouble, like a few people could get together and go find them, and that would be the end of it. But he was like, well, you hit the nail a little bit on the head there. He said, because he could think of several instances up in our community where, like, he was telling me there was a guy who bought 10 cows one time, and as soon as he opened the trailer, they all darted for the woods. And he said they never recovered them. They don't even know where they went. So he said, yeah, I mean, a group of cows could disappear fast if they can get into some woods or get away from houses. And he told me a couple of others, like a guy had lost a cow that had a red tag in his ear, and he said they never found it either. So he's like, they get out, man. Like they can get kind of evasive, and you wouldn't think that, but those were not even fictional accounts that actually happened.
Right. And I think the day after you released Moo, and in the spirit of what you just said, I text you and say, did you see the news about I think it was in New York, somewhere in the highway up there, where I don't know if it was a trailer that overturned or somehow these cows got loose on the highway and they got shut down and they got to try to wrangle these things back up. So that's like, what a great timing for this news story.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing that they weren't starving and decided that meat was edible.
Well, there's plenty of meat in the highway. People are stopping by and getting out of their cars. And I'm sure there's some fool out there taking a selfie with one.
Oh, I researched that too. Could a cow even consume meat? And really, the short answer is yes, they can, but not. It upsets their stomach. They can't do it like a lot, and then they said it can lead to mad cow disease, which was perfect for moo. And there was a few little elements in there, I think, where I added the detail that some of the cows had gotten sick. They were kind of sickly there at certain points.
They were because it's kind of, you really put a lot of research into this because you saw what was going on with the cows when they started to want more than just pasture grass, and the effects that meat had in their system as well. You covered that in the book too. I don't want to give too much details into that, but now with these cows, I like the names that you gave them, the three main ones. And how did you come up with the names for them?
Myrtle was actually a cow that my dad has. When she was born, she wasn't nursing, so like it was kind of funny for a little while. The kids thought it was funny. He had this giant, like baby, basically a big giant baby bottle, and he would go out there and like feed Myrtle himself, and like the kids, I don't know who named her Myrtle, but she's still out there. So Myrtle was I was kind of picking at my daughter through this whole thing, so we used Myrtle and um a lot of these black Angus cows will have white spots on their head, or and I've heard my dad say the one, the spotted headed one. So I just went with spot head, and then hamburger. That was just funny, trying to, because the farmer who owned them, he was kind of a loser, so he would have probably named one of them that. And then you had Remus the bull.
Remus, I saw. For those that haven't seen that promo for your book, I definitely would urge him. Did you put it on your Moonlight Monster Media on your Facebook? Is it also on TikTok?
Yeah, it's on all of them. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And I bought, I ordered that mask and everything. I kind of invested in that because I Googled it and saw that it was a thing. Well, they had several versions, but then, they had this one where the mouth actually moves. If you hook it up just right, if you talk like the mouth moves. I was like, it's kind of right now a little more than I wanted to pay for something gimmicky like that, but I went ahead and done it anyway because I wanted to make a few reels.
I was showing my wife that reel when it first came out, and I was saying I think he's using AI or CGI because I just saw you put a bull's face on you, on video because you're really good with video
Yeah,
editing. But then I started looking closer. I'm like, that's too natural looking to be AI. And then I just, I laughed up a storm, man. This is the best thing I've seen.
yeah. It was all practical effects, no CGI, no AI. Yeah, because I could see, yeah, that I guess they do make like those face filters, and there probably would be one, but no, it's an actual mask. And then my daughter wore it, in the video where I did the giveaway. 'Cause she wanted to.
I was looking for the word superimpose, but I got lost in myself. Superimpose on yourself. So no, I was thinking about it. Why couldn't I just say superimpose? But that worked out pretty well for you, though. Keep that mask with you because I promise you, when you start doing these book signings, people are gonna want to take a picture with you with that thing on.
Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to go to one next Saturday, so in just a few days, and I'll probably bring it with me. If not anything, I may put like a ball or a mannequin head or something on it and just have it sitting on the table with me. But I'm planning on bringing the bull head with me.
And well, so where's the book signing going to be? Is that going to be a second in Charles,
Not this
or
time. It's gonna be in Montevallo, Alabama. The Parnell Library there is having like a big book fest, and it's their second annual, and they've got 90 different vendors gonna be in. They have a park there called Orr Park. I've never been there before. It's not too far from me, and I've already seen the tent set up in the authors list, and I'm familiar with a couple of the names. I met one of the guys several times, read some of his books, and then one guy just I know his name through association with somebody else that I'm friends with, and I think he's the guy I'm going to be right next to, so I'll actually meet him in person. He writes a lot of uh, like Rougarou, like werewolf, dogman type books, so that should be fun.
and I think they'll like Moo, especially Remus, had a heck of a time in the shine. But I'm not going to get more into that. We'll talk. Every time I read something, I say, "Man, something was happening in this book." You're laughing at me. He's like, "Yeah, man, keep reading. It gets better." And you're right. Well, a different question outside of it's Moo adjacent. If you were to ever start doing reels again, like the Terror Tuesdays, which it's been about a year since you've done those,
Hmm.
you think Remus would make a cameo in one of those?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've actually got an idea to make a horror type reel with the mask now. I just haven't done it yet. Oh yeah. I'm keeping the mask. If something doesn't happen to it, it'll definitely come back into play again at some time. Especially since I paid all that money for it. It's getting used.
Oh no, it's definitely gonna get used, and it's gonna be highly entertaining to watch as well. Now, with Moo, this is now your fourth book, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And I know that we all go through changes from a first book, second book, third book, fourth book, and so on. Because I know you're still writing. You're always doing something. Has your strategy changed between each book? And I know we all grow, we learn things different. Have you changed your formula? Or are you sticking with the same basics?
It's kind of like a hybrid of that. It's So the first book, Dirt Road Tales of Horror, as I've told you like many times, I'm going back and reworking it because that was the first one I ever done. It was probably the first time I'd written anything down seriously in like 15, 20 years or something like, since school time. But I'd always like imagined writing a book. So I got in a hurry with that one. There were already a lot of ideas there. I'd already written just, like a title, an idea down and I'd run with it, and I kept them really short. So that one was a little bit more off the hip because I was going to try to make a channel where I told stories and then discussed the themes and all, and then eventually maybe had other authors on that kind of thing. So I ended up writing a book there. Uh, some of the others, especially like the stuff I'm working on now, I've gotten a little more note oriented. Like I'll get a notebook or I'll use my phone and I'll make little notes. And then I'm really surprised through the week as time goes by when I sit down to actually work on it. Like I'll read back through the notes and there's little details I'd thought of in a moment when I was almost asleep or hyped up on caffeine early in the morning or something. And thank God, I made the note because I forgot this little neat detail I wanted to put in. So I still just kind of sit down and just I'll kind of know like what the chapter or story's about, and I just kind of flow with it. But I have at the same time gotten better about making notes and trying to add a little structure to the way I do things.
And now moving into your fifth coming up, and who knows? I mean, you read them pretty quickly, but I know this one you're really taking your time, as you mentioned, because this one's going to take everybody by surprise. I think that the subject matter and the time period where it's going to be. If you come out with this book by sometime the end of this year, before that, how are you going to travel with so many books, man? That's a lot of
Um,
books.
well, I think the book that you're thinking of, I've already shifted gears into something else because I just had a random idea. Uh, like 2 weeks ago, leaving the grocery store, I looked into somebody's yard and I saw an object that just, I don't know how it happened. But I just had this insane new idea and decided to start making notes. So I'm kind of back and forth between like two different things right now. And I don't know how long the one I'm working on now is going to be. I don't anticipate it being like a huge book. And it may be the same size as Moo in the structure. It may run a little longer. I'm not sure, but the point of doing Moo with paired with the structure was to be able to travel with more copies. And most of the time when I travel or go somewhere, it's in driving distance, so that's not too bad. But I got accepted to be a vendor in the main, horror and paranormal con, their second one this year. So there's some little logistics there I'm gonna have to figure out. And I think you can ship a box to the convention center and pick it up. So I may use that as a way to get stuff up there. It's a long way.
Oh, it is. You know what? You might be better off just renting a van or something. Just take it up there.
Oh my gosh, man, I'd have to take off so many more days from work though, because I've driven. Me and my wife, when we got married, we drove up the East Coast as far as Salem and came back, and that was like I feel like we drove for like a whole week, which we were making little stops along the way, but that was so much time in the car. I'd hate to do that again right now.
I don't blame you, man. I try to stay within a 100-mile radius of where I'm at. Anything after that, I'll fly. But That's just me. That's from years of traveling in the past, and I think I'm pretty settled where I'm at home. Now, shifting gears here, because I know that other than one episode, I always come up with some sort of interesting questions for you because you're a fan of hard rock, metal, blues. I'm a metalhead, cradle to grave eventually. And I know you love the questions, but these are not gotcha questions, not even multiple choice. This is something that just happened recently in the rock and roll world. And I was a weird transition to this because we're just talking about Moo, but why not, man? We're in the spirit of our friendship. We're going to continue this tradition. Now, I will admit, when I was first, when I was growing up, it was even pre MTV or when MTV came out. We had cable every once in a while, but we really, the way you heard about bands is it had to be through a friend or you just happened to listen to them on the radio. And one of the very first bands that really kind of got me into hard rock and metal was Twisted Sister. And people have their opinions of the band. I liked them. I liked their look. When you're that age, they were like larger than life. Recently, there was news of them coming back in 2026 and touring again. Dee Snider has officially retired from Twisted Sister. Were you a fan of the band? Before we even go into this.
Yeah, I think I see where you're about to go with this because I saw the same headline. Never, not really big with Twisted Sister, not so much. I mean, I know who they are. I recognize a couple of their songs, but yeah, it was never a band that I followed as closely. Even though I
And
like
that's
hair
okay.
metal. Yeah.
Right. But we all have our ones that we like the most. But I would urge you, not urge you, but I would advise you, if you really want to listen to something really good,
Hmm.
go back to the earlier stuff. Earlier. 1987 was the actual last real release. Everything was reissues, I believe, from there. But some real good stuff in there, some hidden gems, my opinion, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm sure.
Later in the 80s, I was about 87, 88, Skid Row came to play. Super huge with the first album. Sebastian Bach has one hell of a pair of lungs on him. I've seen him in his solo bands in the past. Not in Skid Row. Apparently, the rumor mill is, and it's on Facebook, so it's real. I have to believe it, that he is in line to be now the new lead singer of Twisted Sister, at least in this 2026 tour.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know about Skid Row, knowing what you know about Twisted Sister, do you feel Sebastian Bach is a good fit for that role?
Do I think that he's a good fit? Yeah, I've seen his solo group too. Yeah, I think he's definitely capable of doing it. Man, there's so many bands right now though that don't even have original members, or they have like one left, and I feel like at a certain point, which that's not your question, but your question was he capable or is he capable? And I say, yeah, he's capable. I think at one point you have to take the route of some of these other groups where they just become a super group and go by some different name, because man, for 50 years you can't just keep being Twisted Sister if you're missing like Dee Snider. You know what I mean? Like what I'm trying to say with that, like,
I do. And
because are you
in a way,
Twisted Sister? I mean, he's in Twisted Sister, but is it still just Skid Row in a way? Because he was, you know, Dee Snider was kind of the face of Twisted Sister, like Gene Simmons to Kiss, but Sebastian's the same for Skid Row. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me.
it it is. Now, the more I think about it, well, I'll peel back the onion here a little bit. When Crew got Joe Corabi, was he capable? Yes. Was it a good fit? Maybe not so much. And I know he was a second singer, but when Bruce Dickinson replaced Paul Di'Anno, it was gold. Not that Paul
Yeah.
Di'Anno was bad, but it just hit right, and they moved on forward. Enter Blaze Bayley. Not as great. Was he capable to be in the band? Yes. I don't think it translated. For this one, although he's a different type of singer for Sebastian Bach and Twisted Sister, I think he matches the attitude of Dee Snider.
Hmm.
And maybe that that's what's going to get him over the top. But you're right. There's only one original member left with his JJ French from back when it first started in 72, I think, 73.
Yeah, it's like yeah, because also like Bruce Dickinson coming in and Iron Maiden, that was like early. That was early. That wasn't like 40 years, 50 years later. That was
Right.
it was in some formative years. Just, and you know, it's like Dio with Black Sabbath. That was it worked. It went a different direction, but it doesn't always work. But I think I don't know because it's like glam and hair metal is not really like a prevalent thing anymore, and it's just like you got all these old guys that are just they still have fans, and yeah, and their music's good, but there's like they're just still hanging on, and maybe they should call it something else and just do each other's music. I don't know. That one was when I read that I was like just kind of like Leonard Skinner, like those aren't the original guys. I think there was like one of those left, but for 20 years now they've been running around calling themselves Leonard Skinner. Most of those guys have been out or dead for a long time. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same feel to it, but they're still playing hits like written by the other guys. I don't know.
It's going to be definitely a different feel. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. You know, and I'm still going to go. I mean, I've never seen Twisted Sister. I saw D. Snyder solo stuff, but never in Twisted Sister. I guess I never will at this point.
Hmm.
But Sebastian Bach, good, great singer, great singer.
Yeah, yeah.
And now for one of the last questions, and I think I did mention it earlier in the pre-interview. I always like to get my updates. I know every once in a while you'll text me, say, I just saw him in town. And for the listeners out there, and for those who do listen in Alabama, because they do, I don't mean anything bad about this. I'm not making fun of the guy. I find this guy to be the most fascinating thing I've heard because it's a real story about a real person that I think in a few years, my friend, he's going to be part of Alabama folklore, like straight up. So I already built him up. What's going on with Jimmy? How's he been doing? Have you seen him?
Uh, yeah, I've had a couple of sightings, and that's the thing. Like I'm used to, like I've said in the other episodes, and like the episode with me and my brother, like we were used to seeing him roam around like this community. But I've also saw him now twice in a different part of town walking, with groceries or whatever. But then like I've seen him way over there, but then saw him again up here walking with another guy who looked to be in just as great condition as he was. They were kind of stumbling around and they were all scuffed up and dirty. So he's still around. I still very rarely, like, maybe one, two sightings a year now. Uh, it's like sighting a Bigfoot or something. I mean, it's like probably just as exciting when you see him, because I took that one picture and it was all blurry of him walking.
You ain't lying. No, this is precisely what I was thinking in my head. This is almost going to be like the Alabama Bigfoot, but it's going to be Jimmy. And
Yeah.
he may or may not get you because I have this shirt and I survived it but through you. But no, that's awesome. I really like the updates. And before we go,
Hopefully he stays out of trouble. Maybe he'll stay out of trouble this time.
I hope so, man. I'm pulling for him. If you see him, we're pulling for you, Jimmy. Trust me. Now, for the ultimate question for the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, they want to learn more about you, Moonlight Monster Media, and where they can get their own copy of Moo. Where can they find out?
You can find it on Amazon.com. They're published by Zombie Media. But everything is that I've got. So, that's Thomas Markham. But I've seen them for sale on Amazon. Those seem to be the cheapest prices. You can get them from me in person if you're nearby, or send me a message. We could talk about it. And then I think there are even some of the books that are on Walmart.com and BarnesandNoble.com. But when I looked at those, they seem to be like a couple dollars more. They're a little more expensive for some reason.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you buy it from. And definitely good luck to you with your book signing coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And good luck on your trip to Maine. I know that's one of the biggest conventions they have. This is the second year, but the first one was a sellout. And good
Mhm.
luck to you there. Stay safe on the road. And I know book number 5 is coming out.
Hopefully.
And of course, I'm going to bring you back on the show. We're going to talk about that. We'll bring up some more rock and roll trivia. Really appreciate you being back on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. I'll
Oh
see you on
man,
the
yeah.
next one, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back. And I hope everything goes really well for you this year too, and with your shows and with your second project that you were working on there.
It's going to get out there eventually, my friend.
I'm
Thank you,
looking
man.
forward to it.
I'm looking forward to. Thanks.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.